Mr. Gisclair, could you briefly just describe your educational background after high school?
I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette.
Okay. And in what area of study was your bachelor's degree?
General Studies.
I've marked as Exhibit 602, which is tab 8 in your binder, an excerpt of the Deepwater Horizon Accident Investigation Report prepared by BP, which is an Appendix S. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you've seen Appendix S before, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Appendix S, again, generally speaking, sets forth some analysis for a 39-barrel gain between the time period of 2052 and 2108, or 852 and 908, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You've reviewed these calculations, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Mr. Gisclair, my question is, do you disagree with the analysis that's set forth here in Appendix S?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell me the basis that you have for disputing or disagreeing with these calculations?
The data doesn't corroborate this analysis.
Okay. In what respect is it your opinion that the data does not corroborate this analysis, Mr. Gisclair?
The pit volume gain does not match the combined trip tank transfer plus this 39-barrel gain claimed by the report. From your
analysis, you've calculated a pit volume gain amount?
Yes.
Okay. And in what respect does it not match the analysis set forth here, i.e. is it too high or too low?
The analysis here is too high. The gain is too high. The trip tank, the gain based on the trip tank, let me back up. The trip tank was roughly 42 barrels.
Yes.
If you drain that into the pits with no other outside influences, you would expect to gain about 42 barrels in the pit tank, in the active pits. Over this time period, the pit volume gain in the active pits, which was pit number 6 at the time, very closely matched that 42 barrel that came from the trip tank.
Have you looked at the flow in and compared it to the pit levels during this time period to see as whether you can identify a gain between 852 and 908?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the result of your analysis?
I showed a gain in the pit level that matched the volume that was emptied from the trip tank.
What about drill pipe pressure? You mentioned that as well for a kick indicator.
Yes, sir.
If you're displacing a riser with seawater, what do you expect drill pipe pressure to do under normal circumstances?
Well, generally whenever you're taking a hydrocarbon kick with gas, you would expect the standby pressure to drop.
The fact that are you testifying that the fact that the crew is pumping water from the sea chest, which is a non-monitored pit, doesn't affect the Sperry data's ability to measure flow in versus flow out? Is that right?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean with the comparison between the flow in versus flow out. It doesn't matter that they were pumping from the sea chest. The Sperry system can calculate flow in, and the sensor can measure the flow out.
And in fact, it was at 8:02 p.m.?
Yes, at 8:02, the flow in calculation and the flow out measurement were functional.
But because they were pumping from the sea chest, you couldn't measure volume. Is that right?
They could not accurately measure the pit volume gain or loss.
But could you have done a calculation, because based on the volume being pushed through the pumps, and compare that to the volume in the pits when the fluids are returning?
Not in real time, and not as long as they were pumping to pits 9 and 10 and still dumping the sand trap at the same time.
But they weren't dumping the sand trap just yet, were they?
Yes, they were.
At 8:02?
Yes. The sand trap, dumping of the sand trap was something that had started hours before.
So dumping the sand trap was a continuous operation that took several hours? Is that what you're
You know,
saying?
if you look at the pit volume change,
Mhm.
the red line, from the very top of the chart all the way down to 2010, when they started taking fluid from the hole, you'll see that gradual increase where it veers off to the right over the last 20-25 minutes. That's an influence of their emptying the sand trap to pits 9 and 10. And then at 2010, you start to get the returns coming from out of the hole while they're displacing, which produces that sharp increase all the way down to 2034. And then at 2034, they switched the returns from pits 9 and 10 into pit 7. And then you see this continuation of the increase in pit volume due to the sand trap.
So then if you look at 834, their returns were directed away from the active pits and into the reserve pits, is that right?
Well, the active pit designation is really a designation made by made in the system by the mud logging personnel on tower. Like on the horizon in a 20-pit system, you can designate any pit that you choose as the active. But in the stricter definitions, the active pits are the pits to which you're returning your fluid and sucking fluid out. But in any case, yes, what was functioning as the active pits were pits 9 and 10, and then at 2034, they switched pits to one of the other pits. It would have been pit 7, which at the time was a reserve pit.
Okay. Would these activities make it more difficult for the mud logger to be conducting the activities of monitoring the well?
Yes.
But would it be possible to still calculate volume in and out of the pits even though you're dumping the trip tank and the sand traps? Would it still be possible to calculate volume?
Not in real time. You would have to wait until the fluid transfers were finished and then go back and see what the pit volume was before a specific time frame started and what the pit volume was after, and find out how much you gained or lost and then compare that to how much you gained or lost through other means.